Alright, buckle up because this one's a ripper. Peter Dutton has just dropped a political bombshell, a pledge so bold it's already being called Trumpian.
His plan?
A constitutional referendum to give the Australian government more power to deport dual citizen criminals. And of course, the debate's already heating up. But before we get into the details, make sure to smash that like button and subscribe, because this is where you get the real, unfiltered breakdown of Aussie politics. And if you're sick of the political circus, check out our Albo Says Relax t-shirt, only $23 for the next 2 days.
Links in the description.
Now, let's rip into it.
So, is Dutton pulling a full-blown Trump move here?
Well, according to Liberal Senator Jonathan Dutton, it's a conversation that needs to happen, especially at a time when anti-Semitic and hate crimes are on the rise. If changing the Constitution is what it takes to protect our community, then it should be on the table, Dutton told Sky News Australia. But here's the kicker. Australia already has laws that allow for the deportation of criminals. So is this just a headline-grabbing stunt? A political distraction? Or a necessary move to toughen up national security? Dutton reckons all options should be considered. Having the interests of those who've suffered at the hands of people who don't share our loyalty, it's what any responsible government should be focused on, he said.
And he's got a point. We've seen what happens when weak policies allow criminals to stay in the country. But should a minister really have the power to personally decide who gets booted?
The Labor Party's response? Well, presumably Daniel Mookie, though that's not clarified in the segment, isn't convinced. He's calling it a Trumpian-style headline grab, arguing that Australia already has ways to deal with this issue. We should be focusing on strengthening community protections that have an immediate effect, he said. He reckons the whole referendum idea is a waste of time, one that wouldn't even have an impact for years. And let's be real, that's not an unfair point. Referendums are a slow, expensive, and politically messy process. And after the voice referendum's failure, do Aussies really have the appetite for another one? Dutton himself admits that a referendum should only be a last resort. But he's not ruling it out, saying, if the Constitution prevents us from protecting Australians, then it needs to change. But here's where things get even more interesting. This isn't just about deporting criminals. The coalition is steering the conversation straight to national security, a classic move that plays well with their base. And former PM Tony Abbott is now jumping in, calling for a stricter citizenship test. He reckons the current one's too soft, letting people waltz in willy-nilly, potentially putting our national security at risk. Now, does he have a point? Maybe. Maybe not.
But here's the thing. Labor doesn't see the need for any changes. They are sticking with what the national security experts say.
I haven't seen any evidence of systemic issues, Daniel said. But if Abbott or the opposition want to make a case, let's hear it. And that's the problem, isn't it? We keep hearing vague policy ideas thrown into the public arena, but where's the actual plan? Dutton says he might explore a referendum, but there's no detail. Same with Abbott's citizenship crackdown. What does he actually want to change?
It's classic political theater.
Chuck out a controversial idea, watch the media go wild, and let the opposition scramble to respond. And guess what?
It works.
This kind of thought bubble politics keeps these issues on the front page without having to do the hard yards of policymaking. But let's get real for a second. If the goal is to protect Aussies, shouldn't we be looking at the laws we already had before rewriting the Constitution? Do we really need a referendum, or is this just a way to fire up Dutton's base before the next election? And here's the million-dollar question. Do Aussies actually want politicians to have more power to personally decide who gets deported? It's one thing to let judges make that call, but do we trust ministers to handle it without political interference? At the end of the day, this could go two ways. Either it's a bold, much-needed move to crack down on crime, or it's a political stunt designed to stir up fear and distract from real solutions.
So what do you reckon?
Is Dutton onto something, or is this just a Trump-style play for votes? Let us know in the comments. And don't forget, our Albo Says Relax t-shirt is only $23 for the next 2 days.
Links in the description. See you in the next one.